An amazing young woman applied for a farm job and discovered an unexpected millionaire secret. Sarah stood at the edge of the sprawling farm, the sun beating down on her with an intensity that matched the weight of her family's struggles. With her parents grinding hours at the diner and gas station, she felt the pull of responsibility her whole life. At 21, dreaming of becoming a veterinarian, every day was consumed with the desire to break free from the cycle of hardship. Here was a job at Mr. Thompson's farm, a place where she believed her hands could help shape a future. But as she walked toward the barn, she also felt fear gnawing at her. What if this man was as gruff as they said? Days blurred into weeks under the relentless Kansas sun. Each morning, she joined the crew of seasoned farmhands, their laughter occasional but punctuated by the backbreaking rhythm of labor. Mr. Thompson's sharp gaze always found her. He was both a mentor and a challenge. He spoke little, but his presence loomed large, a man whose hard work spoke volumes. And yet, as she dug into the soil and pulled weeds, cultivating a connection to the land, she found herself listening intently to its stories. Each planted seed felt like hope, but the burden of their toil rang in her ears, a reminder of what her family endured. Then she found the letters. In an unexpected quiet moment, while cleaning out a forgotten corner of an old barn, the dusty stack caught her eye. The delicate loops of ink, the paper's faded yellow, pulled her in. Written decades ago, they danced between love and economic dreams, a family once thriving, pivotal to something grand. As she read, her breath caught. Not only did the letters convey warm memories, but they revealed a hidden truth about mineral rights buried under the soil, rights that could make them all millionaires. Staring at the letters, Sarah's mind raced. She could feel the pulse of potential around her, and yet it felt like a noose tightening around her heart. What if she told her parents, or Kevin, the foreman who dreamed of his own farm? The possibility of escaping their lives sparked excitement, but so did the terror of what that knowledge would do to Mr. Thompson. He embodied the grit of the land. Worth was earned, not gifted. His values gnawed at her conscience. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But as Sarah contemplated whether to reveal the truth, she felt the weight of conflict shatter her resolve. Her hands trembled, thoughts collided. Would it betray Mr. Thompson's legacy? Did the land even need saving? Each encounter with him felt increasingly charged, like they were on the precipice of something monumental. Dread filled her. What if he rejected her for questioning his ideals? Each conversation shifted like the flickering light inside her, a potential friendship threatened by loyalty and her own ambitions. The moment loomed when she would have to reveal her findings, a moment she dreaded yet craved at once. As she looked into Mr. Thompson's eyes, the tension crackled. Her heart raced, caught in the storm of aspiration and fear. Would she find the courage to speak, or would silence shackle her? Either choice would reshape everything. In the humid Kansas dusk, she knew that this summer would change her fate one way or another. The revelation was a scandal waiting to explode, and she could feel herself standing on the dividing line, poised to tip either way. Sarah woke to the sound of roosters crowing, the dawn barely breaking. She lay in bed, thoughts turbulent as she wrestled with the decision that loomed over her like a storm cloud. The letters had become an obsession, their content haunting her waking hours and invading her dreams. Her dedication to the farm tested her moral compass and sprinkled doubt across her aspirations. Struggling to shake off the heaviness, she rolled out of bed and prepared for the day, her routine steeped in familiarity yet tinged with uncertainty. Each move felt mechanical for her, instinctive persistence had always been tied to responsibility. The sun was barely cresting over the cornfields as she made her way through the farm. Today, however, there was no usual camaraderie in the air. Instead, the weight of her secret felt like an anchor dragging behind her. Sarah found herself drawn to the barn, the letters rolled tightly in her pocket. The sweet scent of hay was comforting, but each breath reminded her of the decision waiting on the edge of her mind. As she entered, she spotted Mr. Thompson bending over a workbench, deep in intricate repairs. His focused demeanor revealed a man well acquainted with diligence, someone who worked tirelessly for every scrap of success. "Morning, Sarah," he said without looking up. "Got plans today?" She hesitated, heart racing at the thought of confessing. "Just here to help," she replied softly. Brief glances between them spoke volumes, and for Sarah, it was a flickering battle between loyalty and ambition. Each encounter with him revealed depths she hadn't expected, the compassion wrapped in his gruff exterior, the way he tended to the animals with a gentle hand. Quite the juxtaposition to the harsh realities of the farm life he tirelessly maintained. As the morning progressed, the crew gathered to tackle a demanding task, clearing debris from the fields. With each swing of the hoe, she saw the land in a new light. Sweat streamed down her back, and she felt alive and purposeful. But the thrill of labor was tainted with an undercurrent of guilt. Mr. Thompson deserved the honest labor of his workers, not the burden of hidden secrets. With lunchtime quickly approaching, she sought out Kevin, the foreman. They shared a misfit friendship, both too ambitious for their locales but grounded by shared dreams. "You're quieter than usual," he commented, his brow creased with concern. "Just thinking," she replied, her fingers clutching the straps of her overalls, anxious for an outlet. "What would you do if you found something that could change your life, but it meant possibly hurting someone else?" "There's change," he said slowly, contemplating his words. "And then there's sacrifice. Just don't let that guilt stop you. Sometimes you find your worth out in the fields, not in deceit." His finger punctuated each phase like a drumbeat, solid and unwavering. She pondered his words as lunch wore on, sparks of determination awakening within her. There was clarity in Kevin's perspective. Could she utilize the potential of the mineral rights without breaking Mr. Thompson's spirit? Were there ways to navigate this discovery with integrity? As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the barn, Sarah felt the cumulative weight of everything she had learned, not just in agriculture but in herself. The pulse of her ambition surged, and with it, the muscles of resolve flexed. There was now a path forward, a way to integrate her revelation without sowing discord. "Tomorrow," she said to herself, "tomorrow is when the truth must find its voice." Preparation stirred within her, filling the void of fear with anticipation. The moment was almost hers, and just as her new resolve began to solidify, a figure appeared in the doorway, the unmistakable shadow of Mr. Thompson. He stood there, arms crossed, eyes piercing, as if he'd overheard more than she intended. "The time has come to face the truth," he said quietly, the contrast of his words puncturing the air with tension. The air thickened with unspoken words, each second stretched taut between them. Sarah's heart quickened as she faced Mr. Thompson, the weight of her secret feeling heavier than ever. The letters in her pocket burned against her thigh, reminders of her ambition intertwined with a sense of impending betrayal. "What truth?" she managed to say, trying to cloak her anxiety with feigned ignorance, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. He stepped forward, eyes narrowing. "Don't pretend, Sarah. I've seen the way you think. You're not just here to work the land. There's something stirring inside you, and I need to know what it is." How had he become so perceptive? It was unsettling to realize that he had a clearer view of her inner turmoil than she did. She swallowed hard, her throat dry and tight, and weighed her options. Would honesty truly be the best policy? Confronting him might unravel everything she had worked for. "It's just," she began, searching for a way to articulate the whirlwind of emotions. "I found something that could change your life." He interrupted, voice steady, steadying almost. "I can see why that would make you hesitant, but know this, anything worth having comes with a cost. You need to decide if the price you're willing to pay, the price of deceit," she whispered, her thoughts racing. Could she let this continue? Could she keep the letters a secret and shield him from the knowledge that could help them both? But is it really deceit if it could benefit us both? Churning feelings morphed into determination. She had to navigate this with care, a robust strategy that preserved loyalty while allowing her to take the reins of her life. Mr. Thompson regarded her, his expression softening ever so slightly. You can't dwell in ambiguity, Sarah. Make your choice clear. Either step forward with conviction, or step back into our current reality. His challenge struck harder than any blow. She felt exposed, standing on the cusp of a profound change, her ambition blossoming in the sunlight. A solid plan began to form in her mind, crafted from threads of risk but infused with hope. Let me show you, she said, a surge of confidence igniting her resolve. I want to tell you everything, but we need to take it slow. I don't want to hurt you. His sheer presence was intimidating, yet it drew her in, more inviting than she'd ever realized. As Sarah took a deep breath, clarity sharpened her focus. This wasn't just about her aspirations anymore. The stakes had escalated, and navigating this new territory could forge a path that intertwined their futures. What if there's a way to work together, to benefit this farm without pulling us apart, she proposed. Working together. He tilted his head, intrigue flickering in his eyes. You really believe that's possible? She nodded vehemently. We could invest in sustainable methods to enhance our land and use its potential responsibly. There's so much we could achieve without compromising our values. The corner of his mouth twitched, a hint of skepticism surfacing beneath his steely demeanor. This isn't something that can be taken lightly, Sarah. It requires trust. And right now, I'm not sure where we stand. Then let me earn that trust, she pleaded, feeling the weight of her ambition rush to the surface. This was a moment for clarity, for risking everything she had to build something greater. All right, he finally replied, the tension easing slightly. But know this, if you're truly invested in this vision of yours, you'd best come prepared. The road ahead is tangled, there are costs and sacrifices. Are you ready for that? Time slowed, Sarah's heart pounding. The answer was buried deep within her, a reassuring tremor that roared louder than her doubts. I am, she asserted, stepping into the space he had created, ready to seize the moment. As they stood together in the fading light, preparing to map out their shared future, an uneasy thought crept into her mind. Would this fragile alliance withstand the storm of adversity ahead, or would the secrets that had brought them to this moment tear them apart? Sarah would soon find out. The days following their tentative agreement passed in a whirlwind of activity and uncertainty. Sarah threw herself into the farm's operations, keen to demonstrate her commitment and to earn Mr. Thompson's trust. Each sunrise brought fresh challenges: weather conditions, crop consultations, and the looming specter of financial hardship. Yet, fueled by the ambition brewing inside her, she embraced the chaos with a newfound fervor. As she approached her tasks, she began documenting everything with laser-like focus. She meticulously noted down their current systems and practices, recognizing the potential for improvement. Researching sustainability methods over her evening meals, she highlighted examples from other successful farms that had transitioned to greener practices. The more she delved into these strategies, the more convinced she became that not only could they revitalize the land, but they could also strengthen their bond. Every morning, she would find Mr. Thompson standing by the barn, coffee in hand, scanning the horizon with a thoughtful expression. Today, she decided, she would share her findings. She could almost feel Mr. Thompson's prescriptive skepticism on her shoulders, yet her resolve had taken root. If he were to trust her fully, she had to show him that her ideas were viable and not mere dreams. Mr. Thompson, she began, her voice steadier than she felt. I compiled some suggestions about sustainable farming methods we can implement here. He raised an eyebrow, his interest piqued. Oh. I'm intrigued. What have you got? Sarah took a deep breath, unfurling her notebook filled with illustrations and data. This farm has immense potential, but we need to adapt to changing circumstances. If we conserve water, use cover crops, and explore renewable energy sources, not only can we increase our yield, but we can also cut costs. Mr. Thompson listened intently, an inscrutable expression on his face. She noticed how he leaned slightly forward, how the tension eased from his shoulders as she spoke. It was the validation she craved, the feeling that perhaps she could indeed alter their course together. Interesting, he acknowledged, scratching his chin thoughtfully. But do you truly think we can take those steps without jeopardizing the foundation we have? Absolutely, she affirmed, emboldened. But it will take time and careful planning. I know it's a risk, but it's one that could benefit us immensely. Just imagine the reputation we could build with a farm recognized for innovation and responsibility. He appeared contemplative, heat fading from his brow. It's a compelling vision, but I'm burdened by our history, a history filled with doubt. Many have tried to change things here out of idealism. I need to see that your proposals can translate into action. The weight of his words pressed down on her, a reminder that her journey was fraught with hurdles. Igniting change would not simply be a matter of presenting ideas, it would involve gaining not just his trust but convincing skeptics hardwired into the fabric of the land. I understand, she replied, sharpening her resolve. I will prove myself. Let us start small with one initiative, a pilot project. If it works, it might open the door for bigger changes. The flicker of admiration in his eyes gave her hope. This was her moment, and she would not let hesitation steal that from her. As days turned into weeks, she organized a small group of volunteers to initiate a regenerative agriculture test plot. Each evening, with the sun dipped low, they worked tirelessly under Sarah's lead, their sweat mingling with laughter and camaraderie, the kind of ties she desperately craved amidst the uncertainty, but lurking in the shadows of her ambition was the secret she still harbored, the letters that seemed to grow heavier in her pocket as the days passed. They whispered to her, reminding her that the crossroads between loyalty and revelation would inevitably come. The sustainability plan would coalesce amidst protest not just from the land, but from her own conscience, determined to move forward. She stood on the brink of something great, but shadows, thick with secrets, loomed over her progress. What would happen when the truth clawed its way out of oblivion? Would this dream become her downfall? The clock ticked relentlessly, driving Sarah to the realization that in seeking to change the future, she may very well have to confront the past. Would her pursuit of ambition break her apart, or would it render her whole? Each day on the farm felt like a battle against the odds, and Sarah was growing into a general. She thrived in the unpredictable rhythms of the land, forming strategies in the quiet corners of her mind as she observed the intricate connections between soil, water, and the vibrant green shoots that pushed through the earth. As the test plot for regenerative agriculture began to take shape, so too did her resolve solidify. This was far more than a mere project, it was a chance for transformation both for the farm and for her own sense of identity. The volunteers she had gathered were becoming more than just hands on the ground, they were becoming a community, each contributing their unique skills and insights. Sarah found herself stepping into a leadership role that felt both exhilarating and daunting. She took particular care to listen, to allow the voices of her team to guide the work. Hands mingled in the soil, laughter blossomed amidst preparation, and for the first time, Sarah felt a sense of purpose that transcended her previous ambitions, but her secret was a dark cloud, lingering over her newfound joy. The letters remained in her pocket, as heavy as the burden she carried in her heart. With every conversation about sustainability, every seed planted in the ground, she knew that the truth loomed just beneath the surface of her consciousness. It was a festering wound she couldn't ignore without consequence, a flicker of betrayal that threatened the stability of her burgeoning relationships. "Hey, Sarah!" one of the volunteers shouted, snapping her from her introspection. "We're ready to start the irrigation system you suggested. Are you coming?" With a forced smile, she nodded, shoving her internal struggle aside. Focus. That was her mantra now. The sustainable practices she had been implementing inspired hope, and she couldn't risk jeopardizing that by divulging the letters, at least not yet. The vision of creating a model farm that thrived through innovation filled her thoughts, driving her to prioritize the project's success. As they set up the irrigation lines, she noticed Mr. Thompson watching from the barn doorway, arms crossed, the weight of his gaze sharpening her focus. Each encounter with him felt weighted, she feared he could see through her tough exterior, prying open the truth she was fighting so hard to conceal. Yet, that morning, he approached her, his expression softer than usual. "Great progress, Sarah," he said, surprising her. "I've been skeptical, but I see potential. This could really be something." The acknowledgement ignited a flicker of pride within her. She inhaled deeply, trying to at least relish the moment. "Thank you, Mr. Thompson. It's just the beginning. We need to be bold, and I believe we can innovate our practices alongside maintaining our core values." A slow, contemplative nod accompanied his silence. His skepticism was still present, waiting for flaws to be exposed, yet it was evident that he was beginning to accept her vision. She felt a swell of determination. Could she truly change the tide? But then, with every passing hour and completed task, doubt crept back into her thoughts. She couldn't ignore the ticking clock. Soon she would have to face not only Mr. Thompson's scrutiny but the reckoning with her past. Words left unspoken existed like stones in her pocket, each one a choice yet to be confronted. The day's work wrapped up, and the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the earth they had just revitalized. Yet, as her team celebrated small victories, Sarah felt the ominous tug of those letters intensifying. Was she truly capable of balancing the necessity of growth with the burden of truth? That night, she meticulously organized her notes, planning the next phase of their project, but every scratch of her pen felt like a betrayal to herself. The clock ticked loudly in her mind, each tick resonating with the chance to uncover her secret and embrace the risk of revealing her past. Would she summon the courage to connect her ambitions with her history, or would fear shatter? The progress she had fought so hard to build, in that moment, made vulnerable by warped reflections of her dreams, she realized her decision loomed ever larger. The time had come to face the truth she had long avoided. The stakes had never felt higher, and as she looked into the future, she could see two paths etched before her, each darker than the last. Determination coiled in her gut. What would she choose to embrace? The morning arrived with a shiver of anticipation that coursed through Sarah's veins. Each beam of light filtering through the gaps in the barn felt like a call to reckoning. She had long evaded the truth, but the weight of the letters in her pocket was now an unbearable reminder that she stood at a precipice, with one wrong step potentially leading to disaster. Today was a crucial juncture. The irrigation system would be operational, and she needed to make a strong impression, not just on Mr. Thompson, but on herself. There was a tangible energy in the air, as the volunteers gathered with smiles, ready to witness their collective endeavor come to fruition. Sarah exhaled slowly, letting the excitement flow through her, yet the familiar tangle of doubt lingered like an unwelcome guest. As she moved amongst her team, adjusting the placement of pipes and ensuring they connected securely, she felt a struggle igniting within. This was her chance to lead, to demonstrate what they could achieve together, and yet every cheerful laugh reminded her of the darkness she tucked into her pocket and pretended didn't exist. "Are you ready?" one volunteer asked, wiping sweat from their brow, each hopeful gaze piercing through her facade. "Absolutely," she responded, yet the word tasted bitter on her tongue. Determination flickered like a candle flame, but it was fragile, and she feared the moment someone would blow it out. As they activated the system, the sound of water flowing brought a wave of relief. Murmurings of joy bounced off the barn walls, and for a moment, it felt as if all her fears had been washed away. Yet, the bubbling excitement was quickly clouded by a nagging thought: what if this success led to nothing? If her fears remained unaddressed? Then she saw Mr. Thompson strolling towards her, his stride measured. As he approached, a knot twisted in her stomach. He wore a look of consideration, an intensity that felt like he was weighing the truths buried beneath her leadership. "Sarah," he began, his voice a blend of authority and curiosity. "What comes next if this works? I need to know you have a plan beyond this success." The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. Could she articulate her vision without unraveling her truth? As her mind raced through prepared replies, a sudden clarity brushed against her resolve. "I do have a vision, Mr. Thompson. This is only the first step. I want to take what we learn here and build on it, develop protocols, offer workshops, empower others to cultivate sustainability." His brow furrowed slightly, evaluating her every syllable as if he could peel back layers and examine her very soul. It felt as though he was waiting for her to drop the mask, to admit that all was not well beneath her confident exterior. But this was her fight, not just for the success of the farm, but for her integrity. As the sun rose higher, mingling with the laughter and chatter of celebration, Sarah realized that her path forward wasn't just about the project or the farm. It was a personal journey toward accepting the truth of her past. The dilemma clawed at her: could she reveal her secret without sacrificing the trust they had built? She had felt this drive to change, yet in doing so, she risked everything she was beginning to forge. As the day progressed, Sarah found herself increasingly distracted. Each celebration felt dimmed by the what-ifs that plagued her thoughts. She couldn't let the truth remain a shadow over her achievements. Late that night, after the celebrations waned and silence enveloped the farm, Sarah stood alone in the barn, the letters burning in her pocket almost like a live ember. Tomorrow would demand answers, and she couldn't run any longer. The moment of confrontation was coming, both with her team and with herself. Could she step into the light of her reality and trust that her truth would not extinguish the flame of hope they had built together? The resolve nestled deeper, urging her to embrace the path she had long avoided. With the unsaid pulling at her, Sarah whispered into the stillness, "It's time to face what I fear." Would she find the strength to expose her vulnerability, or would her silence seal her fate? The morning unfolded with an unsettling tranquility, a stark contrast to the emotional storm brewing within Sarah. Sunlight streamed into the barn, illuminating her as she stood at the center, surrounded by the tools of change she had just begun to wield. The letters remained heavy in her pocket, pressing against her thigh with a relentless reminder that the path ahead was as yet undefined. Constrained by her unspoken truth, today was not merely another day of labor, it was the day she would confront the threads of her past that threatened to unravel all she had worked for. The first step of her vision was complete, but without transparency, she felt like a house built on sand, a structure destined to collapse under the weight of her secrets. As she prepared for the day ahead, her hands moved mechanically. Each adjustment to the irrigation system felt like a gesture towards her own instability. Would competence alone be enough to carry her through this storm of revelation? She could neither predict Mr. Thompson's reaction nor her team's. The thought alone sent a shiver down her spine. "Sarah!" A familiar voice broke her reverie. It was Nora, one of the volunteers, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "I can't wait to get started on the workshops you mentioned. This is going to change everything." A frisson of warmth spread through Sarah. But then, the weight in her pocket reminded her that she was on the brink of tearing apart her own dream. "Yes, I'm looking forward to it too," Sarah managed to reply, her voice strained. Was she betraying Nora's faith by hiding the truth? As they gathered for a team meeting, Sarah felt the room fill with palpable anticipation. She took a deep breath, feeling the pressure of expectation as each person turned toward her, their eyes probing for a sense of direction. Here, standing at the intersection of what was and what could be, Sarah faced her greatest test. Her mind raced with the possibilities of the future she envisioned, but she knew she could never cast that vision without unveiling her truth first. "Thank you for being here," she started, her voice quivering less than she had feared. "I want to build on this success, but I can't truly move forward without addressing the foundation we're standing on. There is something important I haven't shared with you all." The unexpected barrage of silence that followed was deafening. Questions drowned her thoughts. What if this revealed her as a fraud? What if her fears became reality, and the bond they had established disintegrated? She forced herself to focus on the positive. This vulnerability was the crux of authentic leadership. Yet doubt crept back in like a thief, whispering insidious threats. "Today, I want to talk about my past," she continued, locking eyes with Mr. Thompson, who regarded her with an intensity that felt like acknowledgement rather than judgment. "I've been running from parts of it for too long, and I can no longer bear the weight of these secrets." As she spoke, Sarah sensed a shift. Words poured out of her, exposing her struggles, her failures, the letters that had haunted her sleep. With every revelation, she felt a tether snapping, freeing her from a burden she had long carried alone. The faces of her team mirrored a spectrum of emotions: support, confusion, compassion. They listened, cocooning her with their attention and unraveling her inhibitions. She was more than a project leader, she was a woman grappling with her identity. Therefore, I can't ask you to follow me without showing you who I truly am, she concluded, the vulnerability in her voice resonating with important impact. And that is more courageous than you know, Mr. Thompson spoke up, breaking the silence. We trust you, Sarah. Together, we will find a way forward. The acceptance ignited something within her that felt both new and exhilarating, yet terrifying. Still, Sarah understood that the journey was only just beginning. She had taken a step into the light, revealing the cracks in her facade, but the unknown stretched beyond that moment, unfolding the paths ahead, would this catharsis strengthen the bonds she had forged, or would the unfolding truth drive a wedge between them? She could feel the draft of uncertainty swirling around her, fueling her determination. Today marked a pivotal moment, but would they rise as more than individuals, or would her fears fracture what they had built? As hope mingled with trepidation, Sarah prepared herself for the next profound step, one that would demand even greater vulnerability and the strength to lead not just with vision, but with authenticity. Tomorrow would require a new reckoning, not just with her team, but with herself as she faced what lay ahead. The next morning, Sarah awoke with the dawn, the sunlight flooding her room and dispelling remnants of the night's turmoil. The letters were still tucked in her nightstand, not forgotten, but awaiting the proper moment to be confronted. As she beckoned her resolve for the day ahead, she understood that merely sharing her truth with the team was just the beginning. The real challenge lay in transforming that truth into a source of strength. The energy in the barn was distinctly different today, a collective expectancy hung in the air, both exciting and intimidating. The team was buzzing about the new workshops, their enthusiasm a vibrant reminder of why she had chosen to lead this effort. She admired Nora, who rallied everyone with an infectious zeal, discussing event plans that veered dangerously close to a vision Sarah needed to clarify further. Sarah, can we talk about the budget for the workshop supplies? Nora asked, her brow furrowing with anticipation. I want to ensure we have everything we need to make this a success. Swallowing hard, Sarah felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. Standing before her team, she couldn't remain in the shadow of her own fears. Their faith in her had been solidified by her recent revelations, but it was time to step fully into the light of her authenticity. I think we need to rethink the workshops, she began, her voice steady but her heart racing. I want to design them around not just skills, but also resilience and personal growth. The words sprang forth, driven by an urgency to cultivate an environment where her team could flourish. The reaction was immediate. Eyes exchanged glances, some nodding in agreement while others hesitated. Would they embrace this new approach? Are you suggesting we share personal stories during the workshops? Mr. Thompson asked, a hint of skepticism threading through his tone. Yes, Sarah responded, keenly aware of the stakes. I believe we can create a space where everyone feels safe to connect their vulnerabilities with their journey. Training isn't just about technique, it's about overcoming our internal barriers. A surge of energy swept through her, solidifying her purpose as she spoke. It was an act of faith, not just in herself, but in the individuals who had rallied around her. Their faces reflected a range of emotions: support, skepticism, and the collective curiosity that was unmistakably present. The decision came with deep internal conflict. The fear of vulnerability threatened to consume her once more. What if her team found her approach naive? Could their bond withstand the reality of personal struggles laid bare? Placing those doubts aside, she pressed on, urging them all to embrace discomfort as a pathway to growth. As the meeting concluded, a wave of excitement washed over her. While the workshop's concept was met with mixed reviews, Sarah felt liberated. She envisioned a transformation not just within herself but also among the team, expanding their boundaries through shared experiences. However, a new realization loomed over her. As she pondered the looming workshops, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the letters in her nightstand were intrinsically tied to the transformative power she sought to harness. What secrets did they hold, and how could they further inform her authenticity as a leader? The clarity of her vision sharpened just as discomfort settled in her gut. The truth she had unveiled was an anchor, but those letters her history were a storm at sea. Before she could set sail into this new initiative, she needed to address the past once more. Determined, Sarah resolved to open the letters that had haunted her, understanding that examining her history was as vital to personal growth as confronting her present. Would those contents shatter the fragile acceptance she had fostered with her team, or could they provide the keys to a deeper resilience? As the clock in the barn ticked forward, she knew the next step wouldn't just redefine her, it could reshape everything. The moment of truth loomed closer. Would she find clarity in those letters, or unleash a wave of chaos that threatened to overwhelm her newfound sense of purpose? The afternoon sun poured through the windows, casting elongated shadows across Sarah's room as she held the letters in her trembling hands. Each envelope, weathered and slightly yellowed, represented fragments of her past, a past she'd long avoided. Here was the reckoning she had steered toward since making the choice to lead and be vulnerable. With swift determination, she tore open the first envelope, the sound crisp and final. Inside, she found an old letter from her father, penned years ago but filled with poignant advice that resonated more than ever: don't let fear dictate your choices. You are stronger than you think. The words hit her like a jolt of electricity, and she felt an urge to write them on her own heart. Yet, with strength came the weighted ache of reality. How could she embody this courage when her foundation had been crumbling? Determined to face what lay ahead, Sarah moved to the next letter. This one came from a mentor who had become a guiding force in her life during a turbulent chapter. The mentor had detailed her struggles and triumphs, emphasizing the importance of resilience, yet there was a tone of disappointment woven into the sentences. They wanted Sarah's growth to be swift, almost effortless, and she realized how their expectations had mirrored her own unyielding standards. Had she subscribed to an ideal of perfection that rendered her incapable of acceptance, both of herself and her team? As she absorbed these words, doubts bubbled within her. What if revealing her vulnerability at the workshops forced her team to confront their own insecurities? What if they found her unworthy of their trust? Could she truly lead, standing amidst the ruins of her past, or would her fears render her ineffective? With each letter opened, the room grew warmer, the sun's rays more all-consuming. A blurring of her inner and outer landscapes occurred, as she felt the past pulling at her heartstrings while simultaneously forging a path forward. The letters revealed not just the mistakes she had made but revealed the unconscious armor she wore, linking each regret to her current endeavors. The power she had to embrace those stories could serve to galvanize her and her team into new dimensions of growth, but a decision weighed heavily on her thoughts. Should she share these revelations during their first workshop? The very idea elicited a blend of fear and excitement. If she were to lay her truths bare, would she be met with understanding or judgment? The clock ticked loudly in the silence of her contemplation, echoing her escalating anxiety. Perhaps the answers she'd seek weren't hidden only in the letters, but also in the courage to address her team's vulnerabilities. Could it be that each person would rise to the occasion, transforming discomfort into discovery? As the day began to wane, she tucked the letters away, their impact still reverberating in her chest. Anticipation coiled tightly, fusing with the uncertainty of what tomorrow would bring. The path wasn't solely about her growth anymore, it was a potential for collective metamorphosis, a journey that beckoned each of them into the light. Just as resolve began to crystallize within her, a text chimed on her phone, pulling her into the present. It was from Mr. Thompson, seeking clarity on the workshop structure. The anticipation of tomorrow was now loaded with expectation. Would she unravel her past before her team, or would she hold on to those depths for her own protection? The moment for resolve had come, yet the intricacies of her choice loomed larger than the walls of the barn might allow. As she contemplated her next move, the letter's weight tugged at her heart, leaving her wondering, was she prepared to unveil the layers of her life, or was her truth too much to bear? The dawn broke with a clarity that cut through Sarah's lingering doubts. Today was not just another day on the farm, it was a pivotal moment of reckoning, a transformative phase in her life's journey. As she dressed, she felt the weight of the letters inside her nightstand no longer a burden but a beacon illuminating her path forward. Each letter had empowered her to confront her past with renewed vigor, reminding her that she possessed the strength to rise above adversity. At the barn, anticipation buzzed in the air like static, a collective energy among the team that could no longer be contained. They were prepared not merely for workshops about skill sharing, they were poised for a deep dive into shared experiences and vulnerability. Yesterday, Sarah had affirmed her commitment to guide them toward a space that prioritized resilience and authenticity, a space that began with her own truth. As her team gathered, she took stock of the faces that had turned to her for guidance, eager, excited, and perhaps a bit anxious. This was her moment. She stood before them, heart pounding but resolute. "Thank you all for being here," she began, noting the twinkling curiosity in their eyes. "Today is about more than learning techniques, it's about nurturing trust within ourselves and each other." Mr. Thompson, leaning against a wooden post, gave her an encouraging nod. It was validation she needed to quell the rising tide of fear within her. "But I can't guide you without first being honest about my own journey," she continued, her voice steady. The air shifted, holding its breath as she opened up about the letters, their contents, the revelations, and the fears that had held her back. "These letters have illuminated the corners of my past. They remind me that my journey has been fraught with struggles, but it has also been paved with growth." As she spoke, she noticed nods of understanding from her team, their eyes reflected connection, the realization that each carried their own burdens. The atmosphere transformed into a sanctuary of support. Stories began to unfold, fostering a dialogue among them that crisscrossed the profound threads of shared vulnerability. They related their fears, hopes, and visions, transforming the discussion into a mosaic of personal tales woven together by ambition and empathy. The clock had not just ticked forward today, it had reset the entire narrative of who they were as individuals and as a collective. Each revelation empowered not just Sarah but the whole team, unearthing courage from the fabric of their experiences. In that moment of authenticity, Sarah felt herself align with a voice that had been silenced by her fears. Now, she stood shoulder to shoulder with her team, all connected by a tapestry of dreams and aspirations. As workshops unfolded, Sarah poured herself into every aspect of the planning, cultivating activities that would allow for continued vulnerability, risk-taking, and discussion. They focused on not just sustainable methods of farming but sustainable methods of being, both in the fields and within themselves. One day led to the next, each filled with laughter, tears, and an unparalleled bond that transformed not only their perspectives of farming but effectively shifted the trajectory of the entire community. Weeks later, as the sun dipped low and painted the Kansas sky in hues of orange and lavender, Sarah stood by the fields they had nurtured together. The harvest was not just the visible crops but the seeds of resilience they had cultivated in each other. Mr. Thompson approached her, an expression of pride breaking through his stoic demeanor. "What we've built here is nothing short of extraordinary. I didn't just see your vision, I felt it growing around us." The weight of affirmation settled warmly in her chest, grounding her in success. Sarah had transcended her fears. She had taken the letters, the past, her vulnerabilities, and transformed them into a legacy of impact, a legacy that honored her family's struggles and their commitment to rise above them. In merging ambition with authenticity, she had not only created a thriving farm but a community enriched by trust and understanding. With renewed confidence and her heart full, Sarah gazed over the horizon, knowing she had achieved personal growth and cemented her place in this land not merely as a worker but as a leader recognized and respected. She had proven to herself that courage lies in vulnerability and that true strength is forged in the fires of shared experience. This was not just the end of her journey. This was the beginning of a new legacy. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now, and don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.